G'day and welcome to episode 24 of Travel Pointers, the Australian podcast for frequent flyers. It's the 15th of December 2025 and I'm Matt Graham, the editor of Australian Frequent Flyer. Wilson will be back next episode, but today I'll be joined by Daniel Kinnock, the CEO of Lounge Pair, for a chat about all things to do with airport lounges. And later in the podcast, Daniel and I will also talk a bit about Air New Zealand's Airpoints loyalty program, which is soon to be renamed Koru. This program often gets a bad rap, at least in Australia, but is there actually some decent value to be found in Airpoints after all? Daniel thinks there is, so I'm keen to hear what he has to say about that. But before we get to that discussion, here's just a few very quick headlines from the past couple of weeks. Jetstar will launch flights next year from Melbourne to Colombo. The date for Hawaiian Airlines to join oneworld has been set for the 22nd of April 2026. Qantas is opening its new lounge in Auckland Airport this week, which I have to say looks like a big improvement over the old ones. And Qantas is upgrading its first-class soft product, including with introducing new ESOP amenities in pyjamas and also introducing Dine On Demand, which should be a welcome upgrade for first-class flyers. And before I bring in Daniel, I just wanted to congratulate as well the winner of AFF's Trip Report of the Year for 2025. Now, voting for Trip Report of the Year closed last night, and there was a very clear favourite. The winning Trip Report is called A Boyhood Dream Fulfilled, Space Geek Tour of the USA. And I actually just reread this the other day. It's such a good read if you haven't already seen it. I'll add a link to this Trip Report in the episode notes as well. Congratulations to Human, the AFF member. That's this person's AFF username, Human, who wrote the winning Trip Report. Human, you'll receive a complimentary AFF Platinum membership for next year. And congratulations as well, though, to all of our finalists this year. The finalists for Trip Report of the Year were all of our winners for Trip Report of the Month throughout 2025. And there was some really, really great ones in there. We're really lucky to have so many entertaining and insightful trip reports on AFF. So if you haven't already had a look, you can find all of these on AFF's Trip Reports forum. And if you are thinking about writing your own trip report, even if you haven't done one before, I would highly encourage you to. Even if you think it might be a little bit uninteresting or boring, it often isn't. And the more the merrier. The community loves living vicariously through other people's travels and also learning from what you've come across along the way. I have the pleasure today to be joined on the podcast by Daniel Kinnock, who is the CEO and co-founder of Lounge Pair. Welcome to Travel Pointers, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
It's going to be an interesting discussion, I think, about airport lounges. That's obviously something that you know a lot about. You're the CEO of Lounge Pair. I'm wondering if you could start by just explaining what Lounge Pair is and what it does.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start from a little bit of our background and where we've kind of started.
Absolutely.
I've just enjoyed lounges ever since I was a kid. So my first lounge experience was in 1997 when my grandfather and my grandmother took me on a holiday to the Gold Coast and got to experience the Ansett Lounge at the time. So that was my first memory of an airport lounge, and that was actually my first trip on a plane. So lounges have been a core memory, I suppose, for me for most of my life, and it's always interesting to kind of find a bit of an intersect between something you kind of hold dear as a memory in the past, and then grow as a business when you eventually when you turn that into a something that you can offer to others. And so it's quite a few years ago now, but I was transiting through Hong Kong and have always had the great ability to use some of the fantastic cafe lounges there. And I was traveling by myself, and I thought to myself, it'd be great to share my guest pass or my guest entitlement with another person who may never have used a lounge before or even knows that they could get into one. And I found someone at the gate. They were on the same flight. I said, look, hey, no interest in hanging out with you in the lounge or anything, but I have this spare guest pass. Do you want to visit the cafe lounge? And you can use the lounge before you wait for your flight. And they were keen. And then half an hour or so later, I saw them. They were sitting down, having a nice, a la carte dinner, just looking very chuffed and happy with themselves. And I
Oh,
thought, like, okay, not all lounges are like the first class wing lounge in Hong Kong, and lounges are of some varying quality across the world, but it was just more the fact that they got this exclusive experience that they did not think was accessible, or may not have known about. And it was kind of that moment that it clicked for me that lounges are part of my world, but they're not part of the world of many other people. And what can we do in this space that opens that up to more people? And so together with Todd Heslin, our co-founder and our CTO, we set off on a journey around the time of COVID. Actually, great time to start a travel business. I'm not even being sarcastic there. It is actually a good time to start a travel business because no one's doing any work. So you get plenty of time to build something and have lots of conversations with industry veterans and people that have done this before. Um, we set out to build a platform at the time, which was around filling seats in lounges that were not that busy because there were not that many people traveling. And so in the very early days, we had a kind of like bid for a seat model where you could name your own price to get into a lounge. We had a few operator partners who would receive those bids and then they would accept them based on their commercial priority. Is the lounge busy or are they empty? Are we happy to accept a discount for this lounge? Um, and we evolved from there. So once travel picked up again, we pivoted the platform over to being uh, centric around how can we make it the quickest and easiest way to buy a pass for a lounge. If you don't have a membership, you don't need a membership, you don't have a credit card, you're not flying in business or first class, you don't have status. What is your option for getting into a lounge at that last minute? Could be 24 hours before your visit, could be at the airport, could be 3 months beforehand when you're planning a trip. How can we be that choice for the customer? And we built from the ground up a consumer platform designed around having the best information on paid access lounges, and making it exceedingly quick for people to be able to get a pass and then use it on walk up. And so we've kind of pride ourselves around having the 60-second transaction between finding the lounge, checking out, getting your code, and going up to the lounge and scanning in. That's where LoungePair is today. We now offer across a wide number of lounge supplier and aggregator partnerships, a little over 1,500 airport lounges. We advertise 1,400 primarily because there's usually around a good 100 lounges that are closed at any one time, and it's winter in Greece or in select locations where lounges shut down over the winter period. And a lot of our focus now has been on building out our other partnerships. So partnerships with the likes of fintech and insurance and the wonderful AFF.
yeah, and I want to talk about the AFF partnership in a moment. So just to be clear, you can, without any membership or anything, regardless of which airline you're flying, you can go to LoungePair and buy a lounge pass at a reasonable price in about 60 seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah. No membership needed. Just quick and easy transaction to make for you and your family or your travel colleagues.
Yeah, that's a great benefit because, like for example, like many people are probably familiar with Priority Pass. I guess would you say the main difference between you and Priority Pass is that you don't actually need a membership at all to be able to?
Yep. So there's no barrier to entry. You don't need to go searching for which credit card to apply for. You don't need to go and buy a membership that you might only use once or twice a year. You can just pay per use.
Mm. I'm curious. I've often wondered because I have airline status as well, and sometimes with I do have Priority Pass, and sometimes I have a guest spot available. I'm often like I'm walking towards the lounge. I have 1, 2, or 3 guest spots available, and I have no one with me on that particular day. And I wonder, should I offer a random a spot to a random person in the airport or random people in the airport? I've done this a couple of times with people that I've known. I just happen to see if I happen to see someone I know in the airport, I'll invite them in. But with a stranger, I don't know. Have you done this more than once? Like, is the reaction generally positive?
I have a couple of times. Like maybe it's a little bit like dating. Like you kind of need to have a little bit of confidence and being able to just go up to someone that you've never spoken to before and be like, "Hey, do you want to get into this lounge?" Careful balance between not sounding creepy and sounding like you're actually just trying to be a good person and give someone something that you're not otherwise going to use. I think like there's probably just a confidence factor behind it. And if someone says no or they look a bit funny over it, you just move to the next person.
Yeah, I'm sure most people would appreciate it, though. Indeed, when you enter an airport lounge, I've always found it interesting. There's obviously like you as a consumer, if you're getting in through Priority Pass or through airline status or indeed through Lounge Pair, there's obviously a transaction going on behind the scenes. And like if you're going in with status, it's depending on the airline and the alliance. It could be the operating airline paying the lounge operator for you to go in. It could be the airline which you have your frequent flyer membership with. How does it work with if you're going in through like a lounge pass or through priority pass or that kind of thing?
Yeah, really, really good question. So one of the things that we've kind of focused on has been some of the inequities in this market. Um, a lot of the time, and look, rightly or wrongly, the membership programs, the banks, the airlines, they will negotiate, and absolutely reasonable that they do this because they hold a lot of volume. They will negotiate very good volume terms with that lounge. So that means they will pitch. We're going to put 50,000 people through your lounge this year. That could be a guarantee in a contract, or it could be like a specific target to reach based on like mutual promotion or other terms, and they will negotiate a price based around that volume. That's fine, but sometimes volume's not good for a lounge. It might sound good on paper, it might sound good to a commercial team, but what about that customer experience? Plenty of people will know that they go to a lounge and there's a queue of people lining up outside the door with their Amex Platinum or their Priority Pass card, and they think that that's the only option for them in that airport. Like they don't even know what the lounge brand is. They're just like, I'm using the lounge that I have access to, and that is that model. And there are plenty of other options in many airports around the world that might be much more suitable. There might be another smaller lounge somewhere else that has an outdoor deck area, or there might be a lounge that has a kids space. And we offer an opportunity for people to be able to go and select what it is at that point in time based on the actual lounge that they want to visit. So it's kind of like building a better relationship between the customer and the lounge, rather than the relationship being between the customer and the program that gives access to that space. So in terms of like our relationships with lounges, we truthfully we work with a number of aggregator partners, but we also work with quite a large number of lounge operators directly, and they are our preferred relationships. We love working with lounges, and what we do is we work with lounges to offer a product which is a step up from an aggregated product. And so that could include discount on drinks. There could be premium drinks that are sold in the lounge. If you book a pass through Lounge Pair, you will get a 10% off drinks at the bar in the lounge. It could be you get an extra hour to your stay versus if you used your Priority Pass card, and that sort of thing then enables you to get a little bit of better value out of what is effectively a consumer focused product, where there's more of a direct relationship between the person buying it and that lounge, rather than there being an intermediary.
It always fascinates me when for example, you're flying out of Singapore in the evening on a, I don't know, on a Qantas flight leaving around 8 o'clock. When all of the Qantas flights are leaving, you're in the Qantas lounge. It's completely full, and then there's the British Airways lounge next door, which is empty. And a lot of people probably don't realize that they can actually go there and probably also do a bunch of other One World lounges as well. So it's you're totally right about not just going to one lounge by default. If you buy a lounge pass through Lounge Pair and the lounge does happen to be full, though, like if you're flying out and they're restricting access because it's capacity or whatever, which happens sometimes, and sometimes there'll be a sign out the front of the lounge saying like no access through priority pass between these peak times or whatever. What happens then with Lounge Pair?
We actually work from the premise of if a lounge is busy or full, why would you be wanting to spend your money to go and sit in an overcrowded space? Like you should go and spend your 50 Australian or 50 US or whatever it is that you've paid to have a better experience somewhere else at the airport. And that is a problem that plagues the industry. It's something that we're actively focused on finding solutions on. We're working with a number of partners at the moment around how do we in real time redirect that customer and show them on their pass, click here if your lounge is busy. Or here's some other options for you in this terminal right now that are a better fit for the money that you've just spent. It could be you going to a nice bar or a nice restaurant. Because you might just want a place that you can pull out your laptop and do a couple of hours of work, but you might enjoy just having a nice a la carte meal or something at a restaurant instead, rather than sitting on the one chair in a lounge with a half-empty buffet. And I say that with respect to lounges because they also struggle with capacity management at times, and they are also looking for solutions on how can we redirect our customers elsewhere. And so we want to be part of that ecosystem solution where we're customer centric and the customer gets the best outcome at that moment, whether it's a lounge or some other experience in the terminal.
So LoungePair and AFF recently launched a partnership with a few extra benefits for AFF members, which is always nice to see. So AFF Gold members can get a $10 credit towards anything LoungePair sells, be that an airport lounge pass or a LoungePair Plus membership. All AFF members get $20 off the LoungePair Plus membership, and there's also complimentary LoungePair Plus for a year for AFF Platinum members, which is a really nice benefit for AFF Platinum members as well. What does the LoungePair Plus membership? Obviously, you don't need that just to be able to buy a lounge pass, but what extra benefits does that LoungePair Plus get you?
So we've designed LoungePair Plus around the traveller who buys maybe 4 to 5 passes a year, or they travel with their family, and they are in effect purchasing a set number of passes a year that they'd like to accrue some extra benefits on. And so some of the LoungePair Plus benefits include you get your first pass for free. And that is regardless of the lounge. That includes lounges that are not available through other programs. So you could go and use your free pass on one of the Koru first class lounges in Phuket or Bangkok, or one of the fantastic Plaza Premium first lounges in the likes of Jakarta or Macau or Hong Kong. And these are lounges that often retail for anything from 80 to 100 US dollars. You'll get that pass for free. So you can be quite selective as to where you want to use that benefit. We offer 50% off companion passes per year. So when purchased in conjunction with a full price pass, you can then bring in your second or third person. You can use both of those companion passes at the same time in the same order. So say you're traveling as a party of 3, you'll then get 50% off those 2 second and third passes. You get unlimited. You get what's called our Flexi Pass product, which is full flexibility. If you buy a pass and the lounge is busy and you're not traveling again, or you have changed travel plans, you can get full refundability on that pass. Or alternatively, you can store that pass as a credit, and we will then give you extra credit on your account for holding that with us for future use. We offer a lounge guarantee. So if you are unhappy with the lounge visit and you provide us with images and some feedback on that lounge, we've then got the ability to either comp you credit or comp you your lounge pass back up to a certain number of times per year. And the other benefit is that it's a little bit like the old hotels.com stamp program, where you can earn 10% back on each pass that you purchase, and you start off with 4 passes. So effectively, like if you get a membership and you're traveling with your family and you book four passes, you're pretty much almost all the way to a 10% off credit already on your next, which is probably about the equivalent of another free pass.
Nice. Yeah, I had a look. A little tip here for AFF members. The cost of an AFF Platinum membership is not that much more than a Plaza Premium First Lounge visit in some airports. So if that's something that sounds appealing, you might want to have a look into that.
It's a bundle deal there, Matt.
It is. It's a great deal. Do you have a favorite airport lounge yourself? Be that one that Lounge Pair sells or just in general?
Oh, my two favorite airport lounges would be the Qantas First Lounge in Melbourne. It is the smaller yet significantly quieter cousin to the Sydney First Lounge. And I've enjoyed many, many hours there, sometimes very long planned layovers, so I can enjoy the lounge and do some work. And definitely the cafe lounges. Like their first lounges are excellent, but like there's just something about the aesthetic of the CX lounges, which I'm rather enamored over. So yeah, they're very special to me.
I completely agree. Both excellent, excellent lounges. And the Melbourne
Yeah.
First Lounge now has working air conditioning after its refurbishment last month. So that'll be nice over the summer
Is
as
that
well.
why it was so hot in there last time I visited? Especially by those full curtain wall windows.
Yeah, they've had air conditioning problems for years. So they used to have big fans there over the summer when it got really hot. But I don't think that's
Ah,
needed now.
yes, I
They've
do. I
they've just
do
done some
have noticed
maintenance.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, you've obviously, like me, you spend a lot of time in airport lounges. You also travel a lot. Are there any things in particular that you really like that airport lounges do, or maybe like unique features that you've seen in airport lounges where you thought, "Gee, I wish this was available in more lounges"? And conversely, is there anything that you wish airport lounges would stop doing?
Have to be careful what I say here. I think the let's talk about some exciting things that airport lounges do. I think as someone who's got two young kids, I think lounges that have really good play spaces for children are it's often few and far between, and they really do stand out when you have a young family and you want a space to be able to entertain your kids in. And ironically, they end up being the quieter. Or more enjoyable lounges as well, because there is a dedicated area in that lounge where parents can take their kids and not have them run around the buffet and trip over people while they're carrying drinks.
Yeah, that's good for everyone
Um,
else in the lounge too.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. It's win-win.
yeah.
The other one is the few lounges around the world that have like outdoor terraces, or they have swimming pools. So you've got obviously Plaza Premium have a fantastic product in Singapore where you can literally go for a swim at Changi. You've got a couple of lounges in the Caribbean that have outdoor swimming pools. I don't know who's really packing their bathers for the transit. Maybe there's an appeal there. Maybe you plan your plan your transit around the swimming pool lounge. But yeah, I think they're great. And then there's another lounge I came across recently. I think possibly somewhere in Southeast Asia. I can't recall the specific country, um, but had this like fantastic like outdoor area with palm trees and nice terrace tables. And I just thought, oh, this is great. Your holiday doesn't stop when you get to the airport. Like you've got another chance to enjoy the weather and step outside before you get on the plane. So yeah, I think that sort of like that ambience is really nice. I think lounges that offer. So we've got a fantastic partner in India, BASL. They operate lounges at Bengaluru and a few other terminals across the country. Their lounges in BLR are just the O80 lounges. They are fantastic. They have libraries, they have speakeasies, they have dedicated movie rooms. It's like a holiday in a lounge, pretty much.
Wow, I think that's
Yeah,
the lounge that Qantas uses in Bengaluru as well. If you're flying on the
it
Qantas
is.
flight
Yeah,
to
they're
Sydney.
they're internet they're international lounge out of T2 there.
Nice. I didn't realize there were airport lounges with swimming pools, which is the one in Singapore, so I can go and visit it next time.
Yeah, it's in I can't recall the term. I think it's no, I'm not going to speak because I don't recall. It's in one of the terminals there, one of the many terminals.
So
But
it's a
yeah,
Plaza Premium lounge.
it's a Plaza Premium product, and
Right.
I think it's operated in partnership with Airtel.
That's really interesting. So last week, well, I had a few hours to spare at Melbourne Airport, and instead of sitting in the Virgin Lounge for another 3 hours and doing nothing, I went across the road to the Park Royal, which has like a lounge and swim package for $25. So you can use the pool, the gym, the sauna, and the showers. $25 for 3 hours. I thought that was a great deal. The only thing was there was nowhere to dry your swimmers, and so I boarded my flight with
Ah.
like wet swimming clothes in my bag.
Do you know that they could do an add-on there, a $5 extra wet clothes carry bag that you can buy on the way out.
I mean, I think some hotels they have like a what's the spin dry machine
Oh,
where you
yeah,
put them in for
you
10
put your bathers
seconds.
in, and yep.
Yeah, that would, maybe they could charge $2 to use that on the way out. But
I was
that's
going to say $25 is a steal. To be honest, it's pretty good.
That's a yeah. I wrote an article about that. I'll link it in the episode notes. That's a really good deal, and one that I will probably use again as an alternative to using an airport lounge. And I'd probably use it as well after if I was coming off a long haul overnight flight in Melbourne as well, just to have a shower, get some exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, a quick podcast shout out to any hotels that have maybe club lounges that are based at airports that would like to look at maybe offering them to transit or layover passengers that don't want to be sitting airside the whole time. Good opportunity there.
absolutely. I would love it if more hotels, airport hotels would offer that kind of thing. It's a great deal, actually. And for frequent flyers to actually just the opportunity just to get some exercise on a transit is
Yep.
really valuable when you're
Yeah.
just sitting for long periods. Um, have you noticed any particularly surprising trends around, with lounge pay around the way that people buy lounge passes or anything that surprised you, in the course of business?
I would say the biggest thing that surprises me is the timing around when people buy a lounge pass. We had always made some assumptions early on in the business that the strongest touch point was around when someone purchases a flight. Because that's when they might be thinking, "Hey, it'd be great to get a pass while I'm booking my flight from wherever." Um, I sense that a lot of people think about lounges kind of at the last minute. So they're either thinking, maybe I can visit a lounge at this airport before I fly. That'd be nice. It might be an early morning flight or particular timing that we're visiting a lounge sounds like a good idea. And we actually see a very large number of purchases in the 12 to 24 hours before someone's traveling, and sometimes even down to the hour before someone gets access. So we have a lot of data around people. They'll buy pretty much right up to the airport. The other one is transits. Uh, it is a massively underserved market. And so there are the number of customers that we have contact us saying, we have 8, 9 hours in this location. We don't have a visa to be able to leave the secure area of this airport. Can I buy 4 or 5 lounge passes to stack the duration on them so I can just go sit in a lounge for the next 8, 9 hours? A lot of the time, we will give them more information around that. There might be a transit hotel, for example, that's airside that they could get access to. That is clearly the better product for them. They want to go and have a sleep for 8 hours or have a meal and have a rest. No one really wants to sit in a chair in a lounge for 8 hours. But it is we see it as quite an underserved market. So we think maybe not the 8 hours, but the 5 or 6 hours, where it's enough time that you could have a snooze, but you could do some work and some other stuff. If you're in, I don't know, somewhere like Dubai or Singapore, and you've got an extended layover, and you don't want to leave the airport. These are products that we are working to curate, because there is strong demand, inbound demand for them. And at the moment, the best advice we can give people is go and buy 2 lounge passes, and then you can choose whether to use them both for an extended stay, or you can choose to just spend 3 hours walking around Changi and then spend 3 hours in the lounge. It's up to you. Um, but yeah, that's probably the other surprising trend. And I think the third one is the number of lounges now that are actively selling like value adds in the lounges. They see that there's obviously a big opportunity around offering an enhanced experience for people who want it when they visit a lounge. And so you've kind of got like this base product, but how do you then encourage your customers to book a spa or get a massage, or get that top shelf whiskey or gin or something that you wouldn't otherwise put out on the shelf as part of the buffet. A lot of lounges are doing that now, and that's another thing that we're working with operator partners on differentiating. How can we give our customers access to that, whereas you wouldn't get access to that if you had a membership.
Nice. Where are the airports where you sell the most lounge passes?
All right, so the number one is actually Cancun in Mexico. Huge demand for Cancun. They have 4 different airport terminals and lounges across each of them, and we get a lot of American and Canadian travelers who book lounge passes for Cancun. Second is JFK. Third is actually Delhi in India. Our fourth biggest is Frankfurt, which is obviously another massive European hub. And fifth is Athens. So Athens is a huge destination for both outbound and also transiting passengers.
All right, really interesting mix there. Well, Daniel, you are based in Auckland, New Zealand. You're an Aussie, but you're living in Auckland, and I believe you are an Airpoints member as well, the Air New Zealand's frequent flyer program.
I am an Airpoints member amongst many other programs that I'm a member of. Yes,
Yeah. Do you have status with Airpoints?
I do. I have elite status with Airpoints.
Now, this is a frequent flyer program that we don't really cover a lot on AFF because I mean, well, frankly, I don't really see the value in it, and it's in our AFF point valuations, Airpoints is one of, if not the lowest value programs that we've assessed. So I'm really interested to know if you find value in Airpoints as someone living in New Zealand.
I find more value out of Airpoints, I would say, as a business owner than I have historically as a consumer. And discovering that has kind of changed my perception of the Airpoints program. I'll give you a good example. I have. If you are a New Zealand-based Airpoints member, you get access to their partner booking portal. I just booked a flight on Singapore Airlines in J on the 787 from Singapore to Hong Kong, 500 Airpoints dollars, and that's a pretty good steal for a booking. I mean, there's plenty of credit cards in New Zealand where you can get 200 or 300 Airpoints dollars as a sign up, and 200 Airpoints dollars on top of that is not that difficult to accrue if you're traveling for work and whatnot. The other benefit of the Airpoints program I find is their upgrade table for elites, and again, this is where it kind of shows that a lot of the Airpoint dollars benefits kind of lie in those customer segments where you're either a business traveler or you're an elite, which is probably likely to be a business traveler, and you're able to extract a bit more value out of the program as a result. So their upgrades table, Trans-Tasman, you might be able to snag a economy to business class upgrade for, I can't recall off the top of my head, but it might be like 200 or 250 Airpoints dollars, which is not bad. I actually, it's an acceptable rate. Again, is pretty quick to accrue if you have, have your business channeling some spend through some Airpoints credit cards. That's Airpoints dollars. Status credits, again, if you're traveling domestically, I have accrued Airpoints Elite just through domestic travel for work, and that's that took maybe a good 6-7 months, but I've now had 2 years of Elite as a result, and it's actually not that difficult to maintain if you're flying on flex or fully flex fares, and compared to Qantas, their economy full flex is just, sorry, Qantas, highway robbery. Whereas Air New Zealand full flex is pretty affordable. Like it's not that unreasonable compared to just the seat product. So kudos to them for having good pricing for their business travelers.
Oh, thank you for that. That's one of the first times on AFF that I've heard someone be complimentary to the Airpoints program. So, is it fair to say that you're?
They should call me. I could become their ambassador in New Zealand.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say you're a satisfied Airpoints member, or is there anything that you think they should do differently or change?
I think they could definitely improve the value proposition for everyday consumers. I think they've tried to do that through having a program that's very easy to understand. like one Airpoints dollar equals a dollar of spend. So that means if you go to the Airpoints, so like again, Qantas, you'd want to use your points on flights, or like where you can extract more value out of your point. Whereas if you go and use your Qantas points on the Qantas store, there needs to be a conversation that's probably had around the dinner table as to whether that's the best best way for you to use your points. I'll let your forum members debate that one. Whereas on Air New Zealand, well, you could go spend $50 on a domestic flight, or you could go spend $50 on a bottle of wine. It's the same $50. So one person will argue, well, that just means it's a terrible value program. It's actually quite transparent. Maybe getting that product is better for you. Say you're traveling thousands and thousands of miles a year. There's all your Christmas shopping done, and you've actually got a direct transactional value between the value of your points and what you're getting through the Airpoint store. So I think like it's really hard to develop a points program that is both transparent and provides the value that all of your different customers are looking for. If you are looking to get great award rates on flights on Cathay between Auckland and Hong Kong, you wouldn't touch Airpoints. You will use Asia Miles or something like that. But if you're looking to use your a points currency on everyday product redemptions or upgrades, like I gave the example for, Airpoints are good. It probably goes back to the point that we always hammer on in the point space, and that is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Go get an Amex.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, maybe there is something to be said for the simplicity, for a certain, I guess, group of consumers. I mean, Qantas, of course, is. You also have status with Qantas, I believe.
I do have platinum with Qantas.
Yep. As do quite a few people in New Zealand. Qantas is obviously an Australian airline, but they are trying to compete more and more in the New Zealand market. I mean, just last week, Qantas launched direct flights from Perth to Auckland. Adelaide to Auckland is starting seasonally. They've just announced as well Gold Coast to Auckland and a new route from Auckland to Apia in Samoa next year. In addition to the Auckland to JFK flight, which has been very, very popular with Kiwis. So, and then of course, Qantas's low-cost carrier Jetstar is flying domestically in New Zealand, competing with Air New Zealand. Do you think Qantas has done a pretty good job with capturing the New Zealand market, or do you think that there's more they could do?
I'm going to be cheeky here and say they've done a better job of capturing international traffic out of Auckland than they have out of one of Australia's metropolitan cities, and that's Adelaide. I'm from Adelaide originally. I've always been very disappointed with my previous national airline for their lack of international travel out of Adelaide. Thankfully, they're now flying to Auckland. I'm actually going to be on their direct flight in just over a week, actually, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, they've Auckland's fast becoming one of their bigger international hubs. Like it's they've just done the soft launch for their new lounge, their international lounge, which I'll enjoy next week. They're doing really well going head to head against Air New Zealand, and look, I think competition in the market here is a good thing. I love both airlines for different reasons. But the more that they compete out of Auckland, the more the consumer and the business traveller will win as a result. And I would just say that if they want to capture a bit more of the Australian business traveller loyalty, connecting onto their Jetstar services out of Auckland or Christchurch even, they may want to invest in some new lounges if there's the space available.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this because, like, if I was working for Qantas and I was in charge of trying to, increase the market share in New Zealand, I'd probably try and look for adding more ways to earn points on the ground in New Zealand. I mean, you can earn with Woolworths now, but like maybe adding a few more ways. But just if I was really trying to stick it to Air New Zealand, like surely some domestic lounges which you could use if you have Qantas status and you're flying Jetstar domestically in New Zealand, that would really, really start to hurt Air New Zealand, I think. Yeah, do you think that's practical?
I think Qantas are savvy enough to know that Jetstar doesn't cover the entirety of the network that they need in New Zealand to meet the needs of their Australian business passengers. There are a lot of regional airports in New Zealand that are serviced by Air New Zealand, and while Qantas and Air New Zealand, they compete very heavily on an international basis. Trans Tasman and on international routes. I suspect there are commercial reasons between the airlines to not compete on the domestic network to the extent that you are suggesting. There is a put it this way: if you want to get to New Plymouth or you want to get to Nelson, that Qantas passenger is going to have to rely on Air New Zealand. And so there's probably a good reason why certain things haven't evolved in the market here. That's what I'll say.
Mm. Well, finally, Daniel, this is a question I've asked to each of our guests on Travel Pointers. If you could fly on any airline, on any aircraft type, to any city in the world, where would you be going and how would you get there?
I would be on I'd be on CX113 over to Hong Kong.
Good answer.
Actually, I'm just going to check the flight number. Did I get that in the right direction? No, I got it the wrong way. I got Hong Kong to Auckland. How disappointing. The one and the other way.
Presumably 114. I don't know the flight number, but what aircraft type is that?
I'm embarrassed because I was only that's a A350.
Nice.
No, I'm a huge CX fan. If I could channel all my miles towards CX and just live on their A350 on that route, I probably would.
Nice. Well, Daniel Kinnock, fascinating discussion about airport lounges and Air New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I found it really interesting, and I'm sure our listeners did too.
Not a problem at all. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Well, that almost brings us to the end of this episode of Travel Pointers. As always, thanks so much for listening. And if you would like any more information about LoungePair, including the LoungePair benefits available for AFF members, or anything else discussed on today's episode, do have a look at the episode notes. You can also leave a comment on the Travel Pointers podcast discussion thread on the Australian Frequent Flyer forum. And for those who weren't already aware, I do have a small announcement. I will be stepping down from my role as AFF editor at the end of this year. Wilson and I will record one final podcast episode before I finish up, and we'll release that over the Christmas and New Year break. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for what will be my final episode of this podcast, which I'm sure will be another very interesting discussion. And of course, if you are traveling over the summer as well, I wish you very safe and enjoyable travels.